everyone. Welcome to It's Not Just Magic. I'm your host, Cassandra Clayton, and today I'm so very excited to have both my friend, mentor, business mogul, money guru, Christy Metcalf with me. Christy, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes. So share with us a little bit about your past. How did you how did you kind of get on your journey? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do now and how you got there.
Yeah, well, I'm like almost everybody else out there. I went to college, I got a job in corporate America. That was sort of the path that my family laid out for me, and it was supposed to bring like happiness forever, right? And I did that for about 10 years, but I wasn't happy. I was stressed out, I was burned out, I was overwhelmed. I was traveling all the time for my job, and I felt very guilty because I thought I should be happy and I should feel lucky and I should be grateful, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I started in sales and then moved into training and development. So I was actually training salespeople. So 10 years into it, I decided to pivot and go out on my own. And I have to say that was 20 years ago. So it was before anybody who's watching this, it was before social media and all of these networking groups, and really before women branched out on their own. And that was 2 decades ago. And I really started a consulting company to go into corporations, just like I had been working, and develop their employees through coaching and training classes and organizational alignment so that they would make more money. That's what I did. Yeah. And then 4 years ago, I decided to pivot my business and really focus on women business owners and helping them make the money that I know that is out there and is available. And many times they don't know how to ask for it or they're scared to ask for it. And we work through all of that.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Love it.
Everybody likes money, right?
Right?
Yeah. Everybody likes
Always a good
money.
thing.
It is a great thing. And, yet I'll hear people say, oh, it's not about the money. It's not, right? We want this lifestyle for other reasons. We want freedom and flexibility and fun. We want all of that. But without money, I always say this,
Yeah.
without money,
You
it is
can't.
truly the oxygen of your business. You can't impact the world. You can't do the work that you love doing if you're not making money. So it is about the money.
Right.
It is.
It is.
And when we make money, we are happy and we feel great and we're serving and we're putting ourselves out there in a different way than when we're not making money.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can say for myself, having been through your program, that's absolutely 100% the case. Having it's helping build that confidence. And one of the things that I really like about your strategy with people is you really help them kind of like build out their systems and organize and really focus what it is that they do so that when they go out there, they're not
right.
Like I remember when I started with you, I was like a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, it really is. So I think people can get overwhelmed, right? When we look at all the information that we have available to us today, we are not short on information at all. We can Google anything, you can take a class online. I think what's missing though is the execution piece. And I think that when we take a class by ourselves, master class, or we buy a course, we're not working through the hurdles and the challenges, right? So a lot of people are really afraid of selling. When we work for a company, we rarely are selling ourselves. We get the job and then we do the job every single day. But all of these people are put around us to help us be successful. So we are not selling ourselves to make money in a corporation every day. Then, I heard somebody put it perfectly in that then we go out on our own and it's like we sell and we get the job, but we have to keep selling to get another job. We're not used to that. And so that is very foreign and very different and very uncomfortable for a lot of people. So I try to break it down into these easy bite-sized chunks so that there's hand holding and there's a safety net and you do it little by little until you build the skill and the habit and that muscle. And then it becomes easy for you to replicate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So So tell us a story. Tell us some, like, tell is there one, like, I know you have like this amazing history in your business portfolio. Is there one um thing or story that really had like a profound impact on you?
Yeah. Yes, yes. And I'll start by saying, I, right out of college, I went into sales. And so I was a top salesperson for the organization I worked for. I had sales awards on my wall. I had plaques. I had, received bonuses. I was pretty proficient at my job. Then I went into actually training salespeople in the corporate office. So when I went out on my own, you would think that selling would be something that I would not struggle with, right? Because I knew how to do it. And yet I was really stuck because I had never had to sell myself. I was always selling a big company with a big name and a big product that people recognized. And
Right.
when you're out there selling yourself and nobody knows who that is, they've never heard of you, right? It's very intimidating and it's very scary. And so I sort of floundered around for the first couple of years, which I think would probably surprise a lot of people. I felt like every time I sent my tax returns in and it had president on there, that the IRS was going to call and they were going to say, "Stop, really? You're not a president." And so that whole imposter syndrome and feeling like I wasn't a president, I didn't have a real company. So I worked with a lot of big companies, a lot of very recognizable names. I did some great work, but I always felt like the client was sort of in charge or in control of the work, right? And so 4 years ago, when I talk about this pivot of why I'm so passionate about helping women now. So 4 years ago, I had been asked to be an ambassador to Ethiopia, Africa for a client. And I custom designed a leadership program. And I was going to spend 6 months off and on over there. I gave away work, I moved clients around, and we were well into the project. And I was supposed to go on a 25-day trip for them. So you can imagine 25 days of planning at home on the home front. I have 2 kids, my husband, everybody had to be on board. So there was a lot of planning that goes on behind the scenes of that. And 24 hours before I was supposed to go, they canceled on me. Just like sent an email and said, "It's not going to work
Oh no.
and we're going to have to reschedule." And the very first thing that my husband asked was, "Are you going to get paid for it?" Because as a consultant, if you don't work, you don't get paid, right? And that was 25 days of work. And I said, "I don't know. Like, I really don't know." So I sort of spiraled around. Like, do I ask for the money? Do I not ask for the money? I went back and I looked at my contract. My contract said 14 days cancellation policy. So I was well within my right to ask for it, but I struggled with it. I was like, will they think I'm greedy? Will they fire me? Will they bring somebody else in? All of this, will they never use me again to do the work? And I think that we all do that in our heads, right? So I reached out to a couple of friends who were in contracts and negotiations. I said, "What should you do? What should I do?" A woman, by the way, and she said, "I would ask for half of the contract and they'll negotiate from there." And I was
Right.
like, "Okay." But as the day grew closer to this meeting, I was like, why would I ask for half of it? I didn't cancel. I didn't do anything. I didn't break my contract. So we get on the phone together and I said, "We need to talk about compensation, missed compensation." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "I'd like to be paid for the work that I missed." And he said to me, "So you think you deserve to be paid for work that you didn't actually do?" And it stung, right? Because in reality, I had not done the work, but I had this contract. And I said, when you have a contract that's basically a cancellation policy, I held up my end of the bargain. And I said, this is not about money. This is about a contractual agreement between two companies, right?
Right.
So for the first time, 17 years into my business, for the first time, I really put on that CEO hat and said, this is what I need to do for my business. And there was a long pause. And then he said, "I just needed to hear you ask for it." And I say that because it was $54,000. It was a lot of money. And in 15 minutes, I made $54,000. But here's the bigger thing. It taught me, this was the aha, that there
Right.
is so much money out there that we are afraid to ask for it. We're scared that we'll get rejected. We're afraid we'll be greedy. We're scared of what people will think about us. that we hold back from asking for what we're worth
Right.
because we let all that get in the way. And yet that's the way business is done.
Right.
That's my aha. And so from that experience, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't be the only one struggling with this. I know other women have to be
Mhm.
struggling with it. So I dug in and I did some research, and 88%, while the numbers are rising dramatically on female entrepreneurs, 88% of women entrepreneurs make less than $100,000 a year.
Right.
And it's not because there's not money or the economy or they're not good at what they do. It's literally because they are afraid to ask for what they're worth. And so
Right.
that created the pivot in my business.
Right. And I have heard that story from you several times, but I love it. I love it because it shows, it I feel like it explains that struggle that we all go
Yeah.
through, especially when it comes to money. I know that, like, that's probably one of my, I feel like that's any business owners. It's
Hmm.
like when it gets down to, like, what do I charge for my services, or what do
Right.
I do for my services? It's like, I don't know, like, what,
Yeah.
uh,
And yet last night I was just doing some research, and men in the US, male entrepreneurs make double the revenue that women make. And it's not just like what we're asking when we do the job. We lose money by we hire on a client hires on to do work with us, and then we call it scope creep. So we agree
right,
to do one thing, and then oh, can you do this, and can you do this, and can you do this, and eventually we're doing like 3 different projects, but we're only charging for one.
right,
Right? So it's all of those things that we feel guilty. I call it fear, doubt, and guilt, right? We're afraid to ask for it. We doubt that we're worth it. We're guilty for asking for more than we think we're worth.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
and yet we said it's fun to make money, right? You feel good about yourself. You have a
Yes,
different energy when you are making money.
absolutely. Um, so okay, so I actually and tell us about your 90-day program.
100 days. 100 days.
100-day
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, so it's called the 100-Day Profit Accelerator. It is very intentional why I picked 100 days. So we always hear, 21 days to create a new habit. That is false. There is no 21 days to create a new habit. It's hard to change. And it actually takes about 66 days to create a new habit. So I put a little padding in there, but it really is to help women double their revenue in 100 days without fancy funnels. We hear that term a lot now. Everybody needs a funnel. You need it at the right time and the right stage of your business. So without fancy funnels, without buying complicated technology, or without running expensive ads. And I think that we are inundated with noise about what we should be doing out there. But the reality is that the majority of people that are online are lying about what they're making, right? They're just lying. And I take 100 days, break it down week by week, just like you said, small incremental steps to where women start making money. And they see how easy it is by showing up, putting themselves out there, clarity around what they're offering and who they're offering it to. And Cassie, I know you were a part of this, but I finished up 100 days in December, and 3 of the women made almost $200,000, 200K in 100 days, which is amazing.
That's
And you were part of that. So
and I was
congratulations.
part of that. And I still am like, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It is
Yeah,
crazy. And yet, I mean, you can comment on this. It wasn't easy, right? But
correct.
once you learned what to do, it's like you just replicate it over and over and over.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the foundation of what you need to make money. And so it felt uncomfortable going through it, but I think you would probably say it gets easier the more you do it.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I like to hear.
Yes. What I also like about it is that you have it's like you've got the weekly touch points
Yep.
plus the actual class itself. So
Yeah, so I think what makes it unique is that we do meet as a group every week, right? And that's
Mhm.
really more of a learning and giving you a tool to use. So I remember one week we literally broke down like the 9 steps in a sales conversation, right? For many of you, you did not know that whole how that flows and how that works. So I gave you that system to use. And then one week we talked about personality styles because it's really important. And then each of you would meet with me one on one during the week to talk about your own specific business. And that's where we talked about the struggle and the pain. And, I think the other thing that really set you guys up for success is we were really clear on what success looked like and how we were going to get there. Right. So you told me where you wanted to go, and then I helped you create sort of the path to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. I absolutely love it. So what advice would you share with those who are wanting to develop their business?
Yeah, so, I think in the beginning, and you've heard me say this before, like in the beginning, there's really only 3 things that you need. So if you're a newbie and you're just starting this out, you'll hear about lead magnets and funnels and all of these things that are really just a distraction. There are 3 things that you need in the beginning. You need confidence, you need clients, and you need cash, right? I am very clear about that is what you need. And it is through many of those activities that you figure out who you want to work with or who you don't want to work with. So it leads you. And really the first 2 years of a new business, those are the only things you should be focusing on. What are you going to sell people? How are you going to approach them? How are you going to ask for money? And the confidence to do that. Then around year 2, you start increasing. So you need some processes and some systems. And I
Mhm.
differentiate between, do you have an online business or do you need an online presence? Right. So most of us are not Amazon. Most of us are working with relationships. So if that's it, I see that many people are like, I need thousands of people on Facebook to follow me. They really don't, because when we get right down to it, to make their money goals, they may only need 10, 12, 15 clients, right? Not a lot.
Right.
But it really is clarity around what you're offering, who you're offering it to, and how you're different than the other people out there that are selling something.
Right.
And then last but not least, it is all about relationships, right?
Yes.
People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And, on that, I will say acknowledge what you're not good at and ask for help in that area, right? So
100%.
business is about being uncomfortable. It is about stepping outside of your comfort zone. It is about constantly assessing where the gaps are. And most often, early entrepreneurs, the gaps are within themselves, right? Acknowledge that you're not comfortable selling, that you don't know how to do a sales conversation, that you're scared to get on the phone, that you're scared to reach out to people. Once you acknowledge that, then you can start working on asking for help in the right places. But I find people spend a lot of time and money in the wrong places
Right.
early on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so two of the things that you mentioned that I want to talk about are, so you talked about kind of at the beginning of your business, you get a lot of distractions. People,
Yep.
you go to a class, they try to pitch their program. I also like the fact that you brought up the lead magnets. As a web somebody who builds website design for people, I can say yes. There's a certain point
Yes.
where those become interests. Like there's a
Yeah.
certain point in your business where you should start looking at that. But
Absolutely.
when you're first starting out, I talk a little bit more about that, those distractions, especially when it comes to like the lead magnets, because I feel like that's such a buzzword
It
right
is.
now.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to talk about that. So, most of us come out of working for someone else to working in our own business, right? And that right there is just this mindset shift of going from an employee to an entrepreneur. The biggest hurdle that I see is that people don't know how to use their time wisely, right? Because if you don't use your time wisely, and Warren Buffett actually has a quote that says, the most successful people say no more often than they say yes, right? So you literally have to say no to a lot of things, because if it's not generating clients or cash, then you're wasting your time in the beginning. So where I see time getting sucked out is I see people joining networking groups whether online or in person, if that's back in person, but they fail to go with the intention of, I need to meet the right people and grow my business. And it becomes very comfortable. And then it becomes a social hangout. So I always tell people, if you haven't made a sale within the first year, then you need to think about where you're spending your time, right? And it's not just about the people in the group buying from you, it's about the people in the group being willing to connect you to the people who would buy from you, potential clients, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing. Definitely manage your time. The second thing is, the one hurdle that most new entrepreneurs have is they don't have an audience, right? So people will say, I hear this happen all the time. People will say, oh, but people go into Starbucks and spend $10 all the time. People go online and spend $100 with Amazon. They do that because they know that brand and they have no like and trust established with them, right? They don't know your business. They have no idea who you are. And the reality is that there's probably thousands of you out there like doing exactly what you're doing that are knocking on their door, showing up in their computer, trying to get them to sign up for something, right? And so the 100 days that I work with people are really not about doing that kind of work and digging in to spending your time in the right places. The lead magnet is at a certain point of your business, but a lead magnet is only helpful if you have people already in your audience who are warmed and primed and ready to buy.
Right.
So all of this time that people spend on the front end of developing courses and creating lead magnets and building funnels, that's not necessary in the beginning. It's just a distraction, and it pulls time away from doing what you should be doing, which is getting out, meeting people, and telling people what you do. And I actually recommend in the first 2 years, you go to as many networking events as you can, because it is good practice. You are stepping out of being an employee and into being a business owner. And you're going to have to introduce yourself, what you do, who you talk to, what you sell. That's really new and uncomfortable for a lot of people. So practice makes perfect, right? The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the more you'll leave a networking event and you'll say, oh my gosh, I hated the way I presented that, right? And you'll go to another one and you'll get to practice. And I talked to a gentleman, and he actually said that he made a commitment that he was going to go to as many networking events as he could until he landed 9 clients. And
Right.
every day for 3 months, he went to at least 3 networking events every single day. And it took 3 months to land 9 clients. So that really, the goal, like I said, is clients and making money. That's all you
Right.
need to do in the beginning.
Absolutely. One of the last things I want to touch on is the point that you brought up, where when entrepreneurs are first starting out, they are trying to do it all on their own.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Time is money, right? I'm going to go back to that comment again. Figure out what your sweet spot is, and you should be doing that work, right? So if it's, I'm going to pick on this because you're a pro at it, but you are amazing at Canva. But for newbies who have never used Canva before, you can waste weeks and months learning Canva. It
right.
is much cheaper and easier to pay somebody who is an expert at Canva and can knock something out in a couple of hours versus you take a week trying to learn Canva, and that's a week of not selling. So really sit down and say, what do my clients absolutely need me to know? What do they want me to know? And what am I going to deliver on? Right. And nobody gets paid except for a Canva expert. Nobody gets paid for how pretty their Canva posts are on Facebook. Right. That's not why people buy from you. It's just not. They buy because they have a problem and you have a solution. And you have to be really clear on what that solution is, because when you solve their problem, I always use this example, but you go into, CVS pharmacy and you have a headache that just won't stop. And there's one medicine that's $4 and there's another one for $8, but it says, will relieve your pain in 30 minutes. We will always pick the $8 one, right? So when you get really clear on what your clients are struggling with, what problem you solve for them, how you're helping them, I promise you, you don't need fancy graphics or pretty pictures or any of that. And I could tell you horror stories of people who spent thousands of dollars at the beginning of their business for all of that, and it didn't generate one single client.
Right.
So that's my word. my words of tips and advice, just because I've seen it happen so many times. I hear the horror stories. I hear the people who have spent $20,000 and still don't have a client. And it really is about making money so that you can continue.
Right. I love it. So and, and let's talk about we've got about 5 minutes left.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the so what are some good guidelines that you would give people, especially when they're looking for like a coaching program, because or something like that, because there's so many people who are out there.
Yep.
And like you said, like somebody could spend $20,000 and never actually
Mhm.
get anything. Like I even know people who have, I know you and I have talked where people have spent like $20,000 on just their website alone and never
Yep.
generated anything. Or at the end of the day, they don't have a website
Yep.
or something like that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what are some
Yep.
like key things that people can look for when they're looking for a program
Yep,
or
I love that.
what?
And I have a great example in that I was in a program a couple years ago that was all about passive income. And we hear that buzzword, right? Everybody wants passive income. They want to make money while they're sleeping. They don't want to do any work. They want to autopilot, evergreen, all of that. And yet, the majority of the people in this program weren't even doing business with individual clients,
Right.
right? So you have to have a foundation to move into that. So my first recommendation is be honest with where you are and what you need, right? So if you're not generating income, first of all, you have to know your numbers. I see so many business owners that are scared of numbers. They don't want to talk about numbers. They don't want to look at the numbers. Numbers are business, right? You need to know
Right.
what's coming in, what's going out. You need, I say 90-day goals. You really should be 90 days. And I start with big picture. What would you like to make this year? And then we work back with what are your offers? How much are you charging? And then how many of those do you need to meet your goal? So it's very systematic and laid out. And if you, I'll give a great example. I was working with a client and she had a goal of making 200K a year. She wanted to be considered a boutique firm and she only wanted to work with about 10 clients, but she was only charging those clients $1,200,
Right.
right? It wasn't good. The math doesn't work. She wasn't going to make her 200K. So we have to backtrack and say, okay, either you need to change your offer, you need to add more clients, or whatever it is. So when you're thinking about a course, I'm going to pitch this because nobody ever thinks that they need a selling course. And yet selling is the foundation of business, right? So really look at what you need and what you have to have in order to make money. And if you are uncomfortable with selling, then take a course on selling. And I'm just going to say it's not just any course, but somebody who is there to do the work with you, right? So I
Right.
think that's the key is that we can buy all the courses we want to help our business be successful, but the person that's in it with us, that's holding you accountable week by week, day by day, is the course that's going to work for you that you're going to actually make changes in your business, right?
Right.
So look at your business and what do your clients actually need from you? Typically what we think they need from us is like 20 steps beyond where they actually are because we've been on this journey, right? Like if I were to start designing websites tomorrow, you're in a different place than I am. Graphics, different place than I am. And yet I would look at you and say, oh, I have to be there in order to compete. No, you don't, right? So be realistic about where you are, what you actually need. Find somebody that you like working with, that you really gel with and your personalities click because if you're going to work with them, you're going to spend a lot of time with them. And I always say, find somebody that has the credentials and the experience that you need and you're looking for, and somebody who gels with your personality, but will also give you the kick in the pants that you need,
Right.
right? That will tell you exactly what you need, not let you fail, not let you get stuck. And there are a lot of people out there that are marketing a lot of fancy things and convincing you that you need what they're offering, but you don't need that right now,
Right.
right? And that's why a few on social media are making millions and the majority of the others aren't making anything.
Right.
That's what I would say. What would you say? I mean, you're behind me on this. What would you say they need and how to determine who to go with?
So as far as like the website design and everything, you need a website that's going to work for you. Create lead, like it's going to create leads for you.
Right?
So and by that it doesn't necessarily have to make create clients, but I do feel like um you know the way I set up every single one of my both for myself and for my clients, the way that I set up their websites is you do get a quick let's connect or quick link
Right.
page that actually acts as your link tree or something
Yep.
like that, because or one of the multitude of programs that are out there, because then people aren't being sent to your link tree, they're being sent to your website.
Yep.
And that helps to bring all the stats to you.
Yep.
And so by having that available, that's what you drop in all of your networking groups. That's what you
Absolutely.
do. And so whenever somebody books an appointment with you, you have that little checkbox. Are you okay to receive my
Mhm.
email subscriptions, whatever? And people do check it. People will
They
check it
do.
on on a regular basis. And so therefore it's bringing, like, now I've got people who have contacted me saying, yes, I want your information. At the very least, then have a couple offers on there or something where it's like, hey, get this downloadable
Yep.
thing and they'll give you your, in exchange for your email
Yep.
and being a part of our list. So that at least starts building your list. So then you have somebody to market to, and they've said that they're interested in you.
That's right. It warms them up, right? And I
Right.
think the other thing, and you would probably say this, Cassie, is, in our minds, we think that somebody meets someone and buys from them automatically, but it really doesn't work that way,
It's not
right? It's not realistic in that we think we're failing, but it actually takes people time to get to know us. And I'm going to say this because of the online space, that most often when I get clients, they've already been burned by someone else.
right.
They've had people overpromise and underdeliver. They've taken money from them and they couldn't deliver on what they said they were going to do. And so I have that umbrella of mistrust already settled in, right?
Right.
So, there's a lot of noise out there. So people don't buy automatically. They tend to sign up for something, or they watch you on Facebook, or they follow you to build, like, oh, I know this person. Okay, I feel comfortable with this person. I like the way she talks. I like the way she talks about business. I like what she does with her clients, right? And so the pressure that we put on ourselves to perform immediately, I always tell people it's going to take a good year in business before you really start making money. And so you need to plan for that, right? If you can't go a full year, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is, if you're working and you cannot fund your business for an entire year, continue working and build the runway, right?
Right.
So that when you take the leap, you're in a much better financial place, mindset, mental, emotional, all of that's in place, and you're more likely to be successful. But you've bought courses and programs. What makes you decide to buy one over somebody else?
Um, so courses and program, I go by trust.
Yep.
I have actually, I'll give you an example. And it actually applies more to like my psychic business. It's I recently had somebody who was a part of a class with me, and they decided to go start their own groups. And they
Right.
kept trying to ask me to come join them, come join them, come join them. And I'm like, for me, it just felt off.
Yep.
So first off, I always say trust your gut. If it feels off, then don't do it.
Yep.
But also it was, it was one of those things where it was at a competing time of a teacher that I have already established a
Yep.
strong connection with, a strong level of trust with. And so I'm like, I'm not going to go and go to some, it's kind of like those the people that I do trust,
Yep.
those courses come first. Those people come first.
That's right.
With you and I, like we started, what
Networking.
I had networking together
Yeah,
just before the pandemic happened.
that's right. And
And
and and really, you did not do business with me. So everybody needs to know this, right? We
right,
met just before the shutdown in 2020, but you did not work with me as a coach until 2021,
right,
right?
right.
So I think that people need to hear that.
Yeah, because I feel like it's, and before that, it was every time I had a question, every time I reached out,
Right.
every time you had given me advice, I received that. um I was like, I listened to Christy, money goes through my door. Like, you do that enough times, guess what? I'm gonna come work with you. So, but I do feel like, A, it's the level of trust.
Yeah.
Two, it's really, really checking your coach, making sure that if you're going to go spend 3 to 5 grand with
Yep.
somebody, if you're going to go spend a couple hundred, even if it's a couple $100s in a course, you want to know that the coach that's going to be teaching you, whether it's business, whether it's mediumship, whether it's whatever it is that you're learning and studying in, it's going to be someone that is going to really truly help you get to where you're going,
Yeah.
and really push you to, and when you do come up with those blocks, they're going to work through it with
Yep.
you and push you past it. They're not going to
Absolutely.
leave you in that, like, oh, that's a block, I don't want to deal with that block, I'm going to put that block over there. They're going to go, nope, we're going to bring that block right here.
Yep.
We're going to deal with it and we're going to work through it. And I feel like that's something that I've experienced with, you know, with you, like with the coaches, that like I've just gotten super selective about it.
Yeah. And
I
it's not
will.
to say that the people that you're working with right now will be the right people in the next 5 years, right?
Right,
You will grow and you will be in a different place and they may not be the right people then, but they are getting you to this part of your journey and then somebody else may take the rope and get you to the next part. And that's what you need to remember, right?
right,
Like if you find the same person, that's fantastic, but it doesn't mean that you're going to stay with them for 20 or 30 years, right? It's assessing really where the gaps are in your business because I say gaps cost us money.
right.
And when
Absolutely.
you figure that gap out, then you look for the best person. And usually that best person comes from a recommendation or a referral or an introduction from somebody that you know.
Yeah.
So,
So, okay, well, so I would just want to thank you so much for coming on,
you're
um,
welcome.
and being a part of my show. And I know you've got another event coming up too, so I don't want to take any more of your time. But just, yeah, thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge with us. And
Yep. I'm
um,
happy to. I mean, it literally is, it's what lights me up. And I feel like it's been a gift that I have 20 years that I've learned this. And it is my responsibility and my duty to give it back to other women who are starting out. And that's what I love.
yes,
So thanks for having me.
absolutely. All right, everyone. Until next time, we'll see you later.